this evening with comments regarding this particular ordinance. And I did homework. In fact, I did a lot of homework between the time I was here the first time and now, to try to pull what other towns have anything like this. Now, I'm aware that you were given an ordinance from Westfield. So I started there, and I pulled up Stephen Friedman, who is the building inspector construction official in Westfield. He told me it was okay for me to state that I had a conversation, give his name, give his opinions. And this is what he said. But if you want to call it hearsay, I will tell you from my end what I gathered from the conversation. Specifically, he said of all the ordinances in Westfield, this is the one he hates the most. And the reason he said it is because he said that it doesn't make any sense. And the parts of it that didn't make sense were the restrictions that the ordinance put on. And I'm specifically talking about this fencing in an entire perimeter. And since you have the Westfield ordinance, before I get into the details about the fencing, when it was presented to you originally, I believe Sam Mardini is the one that provided you with the ordinance, you were told that what we're doing in Springfield is the same as what's going on in Westfield. Well, that's not true either, because your fines are way out of whack compared to Westfield. Their top fine is $200. Yours are going $1,000 a day by the time you get to a third possible violation. It's not practical. And that's part of why the Westfield ordinance was considered so unreasonable, because it put so many builders, homeowners, people in such awkward positions. And the Westfield ordinance, most importantly, doesn't require a locked fence. So they don't like that ordinance when it's just fencing around the perimeter without this concept of locking. And I ran past him the idea of, well, what do you think about locking a fence? Because let me state first and foremost, I agree 100% that we should do everything in terms of safety. But there's the concept of doing things that are safe and doing things that are so outlandish and unreasonable that it doesn't make sense, and you can still accomplish the same goal by doing it a different way. So in terms of the locking of a fence, practically speaking, any builder that has anybody working on a new construction, a subdivision, whatever the case may be, it's going to have contractors coming in all the time. You're going to have your sub people, your plumbers, your electricians, your regular builders, your GC, your owners that want to look at what's the progress being made, et cetera, et cetera. The burden placed on that crew to lock a gate every time they come in and out, for everyone to have a key to lock the gate every time, for there to be people that may be working at certain switch hours, go out to lunch, whatever the case may be, it's just not practical. And in fact, the construction official in Westfield, when I ran past him, the proposal for Springfield said, that would be such a burdensome situation, it would make no sense. And it wouldn't be practical. And the demands that would be put on people, and the fines, we're not just talking about a builder that would be fined. We're talking about owners of property. People in this town that just want to improve their homes, they just want to put an addition on, they want to do new construction. A lot of things that are going on in Springfield are buy a house, tear down, build a new house. I mean, $1,000 a day fine is ridiculous. Yes, should there be fines associated with our ordinances? Yeah, they should be reasonable. I mean, this is ridiculous. But moving on to the real core of the matter, the most ridiculous part of this entire ordinance stems to two things. One, the locking of a gate. What's the concept? The concept is you don't want people on the property because you're worried that someone's going to get hurt. Well, logic dictates that if there's a construction site, you shouldn't be on it. You're trespassing. And if you're worried about kids, first of all, number one, hopefully parents can supervise their kids. But let's say that can't be the case. You still have to work within the confines of what makes sense from the owner's perspective, the builder's perspective, the town's perspective, and safety. If you have a fence, you've already done what you need to do. It doesn't need to be locked. Now let's talk about this idea of the entire perimeter of a subdivision and the entire perimeter of a new single-family home. I had originally proposed that the best way to deal with safety is fencing what's dangerous. And what I mean by that is, if you have a hole in the ground, fence it. So if you're building a foundation, fence it.
5 minutes is up.
You're giving only 5 minutes?
That's what we give.
All right, then I'll conclude very quickly. When we vote on this, you can say, you can talk again on it.
This is, we're not having the public hearing yet, where we haven't gotten to this ordinance yet, so there'll be you'll have another chance. If you want to complete, you'll have another 5 minutes.
And I know Sam's not out here, but he sent us some information, and it contradicts some of the information that you provided us in regards to fines and things with Westfield. He gave us, for our own personal knowledge, like a chart that laid out, and I pulled it up to look at it again. Multiple towns that have similar ordinances and the fine structures, and theirs are way more significant than ours.
Well, I printed the Westfield one, and it specifically says 200. I'm just responding to your question.
All right, but you can respond next.
All right.
And
I'll
also,
respond when I get to come back to
I'll still be here.
And we polled multiple towns.
also, if you're gonna say something, the fence shall be locked as forth in ordinance at the end of each workday, not during the day, at the end. That's what they're saying. That's what this says right here. So, I mean,
We'll address it more.
anyone else? Agenda items only.
Thanks, Barry Klein, 6 Southgate, Springfield. Thanks for listening to my concerns and about, it's the same ordinance that Ms. Horelic was speaking about. My wife and I have been in town for about 10 years now. Since we've been here, our family has grown. We've added 2 children to the family, and so needing more space, we've recently signed a contract to buy another house in town and renovate it. After reading about this new law or ordinance, it appears that it will have a financial impact on me that I would not have been able to consider when our contract was signed. At the very least, there should be some sort of grandfather provision that would provide an exception or exemption to those who signed a contract prior to the ordinance going into effect, because decisions have been made by people like us that may have changed our decisions had we known about the negative financial implications. Furthermore, the fact that it seems like many in the industry are here to debate this law seems to show that there wasn't enough dialogue with the interested parties to understand some of the negative impacts of the ordinance.Maybe a representative from the council could simply sit down with the related stakeholders to determine if there's a more reasonable path forward. As an example, maybe a fence is required, but only during certain high-risk phases of construction. I think Ms. Horelic said like an excavation or foundation building, something like that. So, in conclusion, I ask that you either, 1, provide a grandfather provision for this ordinance, 2, amend the ordinance to apply to certain high-risk construction phases, or 3, simply delay the vote for further discussion with related parties in town to ensure an appropriate resolution rather than doing it now, taking the time.
Could you elaborate on what costs would be accrued that would not be accrued now without this ordinance? Because I just would like some clarity as to what costs, why it would cost more.
There's additional things that are involved in the cost of building the house now as a part of this law, right?
like what?
I don't know. But
If I'm building something,
Yeah.
new house, whatever it is, new building, new house, it should be fenced in. So how
what's
can
the law? What's the change in the ordinance now?
the change in ordinance? Sam, you want to come out here, please?
My understanding is there's more obligations put onto the builder, and the cost of those additional obligations are going to be passed on to the customers of those services.
We have no, if I'm wrong, tell me, Sam. If I have, there's no ordinance right now that states anything about a fencing a whole project anyway, correct?
Correct.
I'm there just to because I want the fence in,
Right.
so until the road goes in, until the road goes in or something like that. Any project, and I've seen them in town, I'm not picking on anyone, I've seen them all over town. There's one on Springfield Avenue, there's one over here, one over there. They all should have been fenced in, I feel. Because people can walk in. There was one that didn't have a front door. And my wife and I passed it, and I walked up, and I walked right in the door. No one's there working. Then you have to have, we have to stop it somewhere. That's my opinion.
Right.
So in mine, I mean, I'm a talk.
And that is an individual houses this relates to as well.
That's it, that was an individual house.
Okay, what I'm saying is these, before the ordinance was in place, these additional costs and risks,
I don't know what costs are.
What cost? See, a builder, if a builder has a building something, whatever it is, I think a builder that should be in his price already. I feel, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm just saying during higher risks, I agree with Mr. Relic, during higher risk portions of it, to the extent that there's additional burdens placed on the builder, then any additional costs or risks associated, potential risks associated with that will be
If I
passed on
may,
to the end customer.
I think what you're saying, if there's additional risks to the builder, those additional risks in terms of costs will be passed down to the homeowner by way of additional fees that may be tacked on to a particular contract, or fees or costs that may be incurred after your contract is signed due to this particular ordinance being passed,
Right,
correct?
any additional risk will come with additional,
Right,
some type of risk adjusted
right,
return that they would be looking for.
Correct.
That
Correct.
was not considered when, for me, for
That's how I
instance,
see
when we
that.
entered into a contract, so now there could be, that's all. That's
Yep.
all.
Your 5
Yep.
minutes is up.
thank you.
Thank you. No. Yeah, sure you can.
I only have 5 minutes, so I'll just get straight to
Name and
stuff.
address,
My name
please.
is Charles Larkin, 26 Westy Lane.
Yep.
Fencing is to remain closed, locked, secured, when no personnel are at the construction site, when no construction activities are taking place, not the end of the day. So if the guy goes for lunch, it must be locked, and if he goes away for 5 minutes, if he has to go pick up his kid or whatever it is, he will get a fine. That's A. B, if you're
Construction related
thinking,
site must be closed then.
I just read it verbatim.
All right, and go down to C. This ordinance at the end of each workday, and whenever.
Fencing is to remain closed, locked, secured, when no
Wait a minute.
personnel are at the
Sure.
construction site or construction activities are taking place. So if I go for lunch, not me, any Joe Blow, I leave a guy there, hey, do me a favor, stay right here. He leaves for 5 minutes, and see, you're in the construction business, I understand, so you know that the lowest man on the totem pole isn't thinking about your responsibilities. And now you are making him do that. So if he goes out and goes, oh, I just went out for 2 seconds, you know you've heard that. That's just one point. The second point is, you're saying here, you singled out single family and new developments. But at the same token, you're saying that you want everything locked in. So why are you singling out single family and new developments? My point is only that if you're doing a rehabilitation of a house, it's the same danger, is it not? There's the same hole if you're doing an extension. So why aren't you fencing those in if you're so concerned about safety? B, I am with everybody here that's the same thing. If you want to do safety on a hole, if there's a dangerous hole, fence it in. Once there's a structure and it's locked up, I don't see why you would still need a fence.
I feel you need a fence because you have electricians, you have plumbers, you have, gas tanks there. You're,
Which gas tanks?
or you're soldering, am I
What
correct?
about soldering?
Pipes.
For what? You're coming back to one particular thing. You're talking about a development, but you have single family here also. If you wanted to talk about developments only, talk about developments only. I don't see why you have to hide it.
I'm not hiding that.
I'm just saying.
A single family.
Let me rephrase it.
You could
Let me
put
rephrase
no
it. I'm
piping.
sorry. If you're talking about developments only, talk about development only. Don't talk about single family. There's a lot of people here that are scared about single family, not about developments. You know that. Nobody's here for developments. I don't think we have so many developers developing in Springfield. So if it's about development, let's talk about development. Don't make these other rules that affect other people and get them scared. I have 5 people calling me, hey, they're not using me, so it's not about that. Charlie, what's this new rule? And I say, I really don't know. I think they're trying to do something, I'm not really sure. If there's something specific, and we all know what it is, I've worked with everybody, and I've done what needs to be done. So let's just not do this. Why punish everybody else? Talk to me.
I'm not singling you out, and it's not just you. I've worked, and it isn't. All right, I'm not singling you out, Charlie, and you know that. I'm saying I've...
What soldering is done at any single family home?
Sweating pipes, don't you sweat pipes?
No.
I mean, I'm sorry, I've seen...
No, it's not done.
No? Okay.
I've built over 30 homes, not new family. New family, I've done over 20 homes here. Thank God we've never had an incident. Rehabilitation, I've done God knows how many. We've never had an incident. Safety, I get it. Never argue about safety. Let's keep it safe. But let's do it within reason. Let's do it where, you know, there's a guy building next to Irwin Park. He put the red line, you know, those red fences. It's not this big hulking gate where people have to, you know, pick it up, and there's all kinds of cockamamie things going on. We did one preemptively on Mountain Avenue. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. The neighbors hate it. It looks like a prison, and it's, you know, it's on a hill, so it's not straight. Let's do things within reason. We've always done it that way. I think my 5 minutes are up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, network. Okay. Next thing, reports, finance.
I'd like to make a motion to approve payroll and invoice vouchers for the period from June 27, 2018 to July 17, 2018 in the amount of $5,989,656.52.
I second.
Roll call.
Committeewoman Stampoulis?
Yes.
Committeeman Capides?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dubois?
Yes.
Committeewoman Vasallo?
Yes.
Mayor Huber?
Yes. All right. Minutes and reports. All right, ordinances.
Okay. This is the second reading on ordinance 2018-12. This ordinance amends Township's revised general ordinances, Chapter 12, Section 12-1, by adding a new subsection regarding construction and renovation site safety and fencing.
I move to approve ordinance 2018-12 as read by Madam Clerk and publicized in the local source July 26, 2018.
I second.
All right, now we have public comment on this. Mr. Earl, would you like to come up?
Barbara Relic, 1 Road, Springfield. I started earlier, so I'll have to do it at this point. I had an idea for how to revise this ordinance, where you could accomplish everything that everybody is concerned about, and not do it in such an onerous fashion. And that would be as follows. Fence in a hole, a cavity, a bound, machinery, or an open structure. Once that structure has its windows and its door, and it's closed, there's no reason why there needs to be a fence around it anymore. If somebody has a new residence that they're, or an addition that they're putting on a house, and it should apply, as Charlie Larkin said, how do you distinguish safety from a single-family home to a subdivision to somebody putting an addition on their house? Safety is safety. And what are you trying to safeguard against? Someone falling in a foundation hole, somebody climbing up on the big mound of whatever they put there, because mostly it's going to be the kids you're worried about. Because adults hopefully will have common sense and not do it. You're worried you're going to climb on the machinery, and you're worried that when there's a structure that's in the process of being built, and there's still open windows and doors, as you said, if you walked in, that's what you wanted for. So fence that. And once that's all done, get rid of the fence. You have people buying homes that are nearly $1 million right now in this town. And when they're their idea of a gated community is not living behind one of these fences that you have around an entire subdivision.
Well, didn't we clarify that it's not gonna be around
No,
the
it's
entire
still in this
subdivision?
ordinance.
Is it, how, I'm trying to, like,
I'd like
because
to-
I've asked these questions and I feel like I thought we clarified that.
Then why is it still here?
I don't know.
Well,
I
it is.
thought that we clarified and we changed so it's not, it's as each unit that completes that it would be unfenced, right?
That's correct.
Then
Because-
why do you have an ordinance that reads that way? Why is the ordinance
Well-
reading that for subdivisions, it will be the entire perimeter? When I did speak with the construction official, person in Westfield, I'll give you his exact language for, this is what he said. He said, there's no need for a fence if the land is back to its natural luster, meaning that if you've got a closed structure, you've got, you know, whether it's.
No, I understand, but I thought it's,
We did. I mean, when we had that example on one of the subdivisions, where as soon as a property is completed and a certificate of occupancy is issued, that fence has to be removed anyway and moved back to the area that is being constructed. You cannot fence a house that already received a CO. You
Then
can't.
why is it written this way? Then at least if you're gonna pass an ordinance, and you're gonna expect people to live by the rules of that ordinance, then state it the way you want them to live. You don't put language in here that we're supposed to assume as the public, oh, by the way, that doesn't apply. That's insane.
That was discussed at the last meeting, and it was made very clear, and I told you, you can't have a CO with a property that's fenced in, period.
Hold on, now you're mixing COs and property fenced in. They should not be tied together. If somebody's done what they have to do in order to get a CO, fencing is irrelevant to that CO.
That is not
The
true.
fence and the CO should not be tied together.
That is not true, because inspection from the engineering office is the last inspection that is done before a CO is issued, and that is one of the things we look at site safety, and we will not allow a CO to be issued if a fence is around that finished property.
yeah, we had this discussion.
Yeah, but what
That's not
I was
right.
saying, and if I'm wrong, tell me.
Go ahead.
If I'm constructing a new house right here, I got all the windows in, got the front door in, got the back door in, everything's basically done. You know, like the outside, I'm still working on the inside. But all the doors in and all the other stuff, the fence should come out, which I.
Yeah, and I think it says
No,
it
does
somewhere.
not.
Right, am I wrong what you're saying?
That's correct. What I'm saying is write this ordinance in the correct way. You want to accomplish your safety, you can do that, but not the way this is worded. This is burdensome, overbearing, and it's
Right.
ridiculous.
But if we were to put that in about, once the doors are in and everything else like that, but on a, development, as Charles said before, I would say, I would want to keep the fence up until the road is in. Some pavement is in, so they, fire trucks can get in there. We have to, I don't want them going through mud and all that, and God forbid, get stuck in the mud.
First of all, Mike, let me comment. Number one, many of the subdivisions are not built all houses simultaneously. So you can end up, for example, the Madden Court subdivision, all 11 houses did not go up at the same time. It would make no sense to keep that entire subdivision fenced in.
But if I'm, and let me interrupt, and I apologize, but if I'm putting a house here, and I have 3 more houses here, I'll move the fence back to there, and then, and then that is no longer fenced in, right?
But that's my point.
If I may,
Around?
on that report,
All right, can we just,
Right.
Mr. Larkin, as soon as Mr. Relic is done.
Yeah,
If he wants
yeah.
to make a comment, I'll defer.
Let me
All right,
just,
Sam, address it.
let me just address one point you made about the fence. It says here, the fence shall be installed prior to the commencement of the work and shall remain to be maintained on the construction/renovation site until there is no longer a hole, cavity, or mound, until there is no machinery, or until a structure is closed. So it does say that.
He's saying it right there.
The problem is your next sentence. This is disjointed. I agree with that concept, but then it says for subdivisions and new single-family construction, it shall be the responsibility of the construction owner to install a fence around the entire perimeter of the construction site. if you change, first of all, this was moved around language. There's a carve out right now in this, if you read it, for subdivisions and new single-family construction. I say, why is there a carve out? If you're worried about this is my point. You're worried about a hole in the ground that can happen if somebody that's just putting an addition on there. I did additions on my house. We had a hole in the ground because we built a new foundation to put an addition. Make it across the board to cover a hole, a cavity, a mound, a non-closed structure. But do not carve out for subdivisions and single-family homes.
But you said that. You just said that. It's not a
No, read the ordinance.
You just said. Where is it?
Read the ordinance. After you finish talking about what he just said, then it says, but for subdivisions, get rid of the carve out. Get rid of the carve out. And it makes sense. And I agree wholeheartedly. A hole, a cavity, a mound, machinery, a non-closed structure, fence it in. And I don't care whether you're a subdivision, whether you're the Gomes property that's about to go up on Mars Avenue, whether you're a person that's just putting a new room on the back of their house or whatever. That should apply across the board, and that's your real safety issue. I mean, the chief of police is right here. The danger is that a kid is going to fall in the hole. The danger is that the kids are going to climb the mound. Or the danger is that they're going to go on the machinery. Or people, even adults, are going to wander into construction sites and wander into a house under construction. They want to peek and they want to see, what does that look like? How big is that on the inside? That's what you're trying to safeguard against. So write the ordinance to do that.
So if we take for subdivision and new single-family home construction, it shall be responsible. Is that what you're saying?
That is part of it. The locking is another part of it, which
locking I will not take out.
Yeah.
I will not take the locking out.
Mr. Mardini, can you elaborate on this? Because I think it's brought to my attention that you work with the planning board to assist with this ordinance regarding other towns. Are they similar, or if not exactly the same?
Well, there are towns that have those kind of fence ordinances, not a whole lot, but they do have them. So we have towns such as South Brunswick, Elizabeth, Westfield, Princeton, Avalon. They all have ordinances.
Equivalent to this?
Correct. In fact, all of these townships have penalties, if not similar to Springfield, they're higher than Springfield.
Westfield does not have a law.
Well, we're not talking about the law. We're talking about having a fence ordinance.
I think a lot deteriorates people.
And their fines are 1,000 for the first offense, 1,000 for the second, 1,000 for our fine.
Westfield's 200. We also check all the surroundings. We are not Elizabeth. We are not South Brunswick. We are not, what was another one that you named?
Avalon, Princeton,
You're talking about
Elizabeth.
big city type towns. I checked all the ones in this area. Milburn doesn't have it. Summit doesn't have it. Cranford doesn't have it. Westfield is different if you read it. It's not what you put into place. Not at all, in fact. And I told you already what the Westfield gentleman said, who's got this. And another thing he said is the towns that don't have these fencing ordinances, they go by the UCC. They know what they're supposed to do. Builders are putting up, as Mr. Larkin indicated, you can put up fencing that's not this anchor-based lock and chain link, whatever. What are you going to do on Morris Avenue? You're going to close off all of Morris Avenue when that construction starts?
Westfield specifies a 6-foot chain link fence which posts anchored into the ground around the entire perimeter of the construction site.
No locking. I've got the ordinance in front of me. It's also a $200 fine. Up to 200. That's the max.
I don't have the fine on here.
I read.
Thank you.
Give a copy if you like.
Thank you.
The point is, you're about to vote on this. And I think that you should revamp this ordinance based on all the comments here tonight, based on even your own comments. Well, it doesn't apply to this, or we're not going to do that, or we're not going to do this. How do you put in place an ordinance with things that you're supposedly not going to do, and the public's supposed to know that that's not going to apply? It makes no sense. I agree with the ordinance. I agree with safety. I told you what you should fence in. Again, not to be redundant, but I have to say, a hole, a cavity, a mound, machinery, and an open structure. Beyond that, what are you doing? And why? And how do you distinguish between a single-family new construction and somebody that's got an old house and is putting on a bigger addition than, you know, a little room or even a room? How do you do that? Why is it different? Isn't safety the same across the board? It should be treated the same.
All right. Thank you. We're giving you 10 minutes.
Well, I was entitled to all my time. I could keep going if you'd like.
I know that.
But I don't. Anyway, I'll just say in conclusion, and I've sat up there, with all the comments made this evening, at a minimum, you should hold off on that vote and at least consider the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Larkin again, 26 Christie Lane. There's a few other guys here that are shy to talk because they're afraid of, you know, nobody wants to be looked at in a bad eye. I know nobody here is like that. I've had many engagements with Mr. Sam Martini, and I know that, you know, we're allowed to tussle and move on with life. This ordinance does, I think, by the questions that are being asked and so on, I think you guys could say, ladies and gentlemen, can realize that maybe we need to make a small adjustment. If not a big one, you know, something. Because the machinery one, while Mr. Relic says maybe we should fence that one in too, I'm not a huge fan of that, because if somebody's redoing their driveway, you know, they hire somebody from wherever and a machine comes and all of a sudden, now we have to, that machine has to also be fenced in, the guy doesn't know. I don't know if you need such a big fence. Like I said, the guy next to Irwin Park, he's doing new construction. He fenced it in with, you know, it's not a 6-foot big fence. And by the way, the Westfield one, you are allowed to take down after a while, and they're not strict about it at all. I've built there. It's very much like, hey, keep it safe, but it's there. They do not like the ordinance.
But the list of fines we have is $1,000 a day for Westfield, so that's.
Westfield?
Yeah.
Westfield, I have it on, it's 200.
And all the other ones, I did call around because I said to myself, you know, maybe why am I being so crazy about this? I called Maplewood, I called Milburn, I called all of them, and Elizabeth has it. I think we all know there's certain reasons why they need it. And thank God we should compare ourselves to, you know, the towns that were more similar like. So again, if you can, just reconsider or make a small adjustment. I think the town engineer and the town officials, at least with my experience, have a lot of sway with the builders. What does that mean? That means that when they come up to you and they say, hey, we want you to do this, they don't have too many arguments. Like, for example, when Sam wants the, you know, grass to have a certain one before he gives you the CO, and he wants you to put out hay again because he thinks it's not pretty enough, or whatever it is, you know what we do? We jump to it. If you look at the last one, it wasn't even mine. I drove by, I think it's 292 Hillside. What's the address? 242 Hillside, whatever it is. I drove by there. I thought the contractor was done. I know him. I said, okay, you getting ready? He goes, no, Sam wants me to redo the whatever. I said, oh, that sucks. He goes, yeah, but I got to do it. That's the type of relationship our builders have with Sam. Yeah, so what? So we say, Sam, I don't want to do it, whatever. We do it. We listen to the guy because he works with us. He doesn't punish us. He works with us. All we're asking for, and maybe this is what you'd be, you know, leave Sam alone. Maybe that's the correct answer here. Maybe that's the correct answer. Leave him alone. He's doing a good job. You drive around, the houses are looking good. Yeah, so he has a headache. He has to chase us. So what? He gets paid. Let him chase us. But we listen.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second?
That's what we're talking about right now.
I know that your ordinance has dirt in it, which I forgot to mention. There's a whole section in here on dirt, and we had discussed this at one point when I was here the first time, because there's the Somerset Soil Conservation that deals with that issue. And the way this ordinance currently reads, it is not appropriate with regard to what's allowable in terms of dirt on roadways. And if you are going to talk about dirt. It's not just a construction site. You got landscapers, you got all sorts of other people that unfortunately sometimes get dirt in the road, and then you've got natural reasons why that happens. And actually, Mr. Larkin can comment on that because he
But
has
you know with the dirt,
conservation.
I'm gonna stop you there. You know with the dirt, we're gonna be reasonable. It's when you track it all over and everything like that. It's not gonna be landscape, it's not gonna be all this, come on, I disagree with that.
But
Sorry.
again, read your language in your ordinance. If you read the language of the ordinance, it's talking about when there's the dirt on the road. Again, if you don't want it to be that, then don't write it that way. It's that simple. It's just that simple. And one last thing I'll state on the fencing, it shouldn't just be residential, it should be commercial as well. There's safety issues, it should be applied to
Should
any
be
building.
commercial, is this in there?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor. After hearing comments from the public as well as the Township Committee, it is of my opinion that there's obviously some sways in this language in terms of interpretation. And I would suggest, after hearing the feedback from the residents, that we take these notes under advisement and see if we can revise this ordinance. Not that we're going to comply with every one of their requests, but look at the language again with their comments and see if there's other things that we can do to make things more clear. Obviously, you know, they're not going to agree with the complete outcome, but at least we could take a look at the points that they've made and see if we could change the language to make it more accurate and streamline what exactly we're asking for.
So, well, do I have a motion? I'm sorry, yes.
It's okay.
Just jump
We're
right
on
in.
28 Walker Circle, just making me look pretty. Just going back to the dirt, I mean, just to throw a little more fuel on the fire. You got my zone park. That's the county, they're tracking dirt all over the place on my zone.
Well, it's a county road, I can't do anything. I can't do anything about it.
No, I'm just
We can't,
saying,
you know.
you know, it's city ordinance, you know, but, and if you went, before this ordinance would take effect, if you went on Warwick Circle, you would have saw this accident also. So, you know, it's just,
All right,
food for thought.
if you want to do that, then Chris, do you and
Move to table it.
we can table it?
No, it's a second reading. I mean, listen, I have to disagree. I think Mr. Mardini, the planning board attorney, our attorney, this is our second reading. They have read this, rewrote it, amended it, and corrected everything that was pertaining to the construction site, so.
Can I let you know your options?
Is this?
Yeah, how about that? Let's
Here's what I'll-
let's ask the attorney.
Can I just summarize what the options are?
Yes,
For
please.
the Township Committee right now. So you can vote on this tonight, and if it passes, and if it's not challenged in court, you can still consider making amendments to it thereafter. That's one option. Your other, and if it doesn't pass, then you're back to the drawing board anyway. And the other option is, if you were to table it, the types of modifications that are being proposed would require us to basically start from scratch. In terms of the process, a lot of work has been done. We wouldn't throw out all the work, but we would have to go back to first reading again. So tabling it, in essence, is the same as just voting no or stopping at this
So we
point.
could pass it but amend it with the change in wording that we talked about.
You could pass it, but an amendment would have to go through first reading and second reading after the 10-day estoppel period.
So this is a living document that could be changed at any time through an amendment?
Like this is an amendment to your existing ordinance, so once it's, right, so if it were to be adopted tonight, but you wanted to make changes thereafter, then you would follow the same process that you did here.
Okay.
With the amendments.
But it would be in place until those amendments were to come into effect.
Somebody else.
Yes, sir.
Ace Bernstein, 45 John Lane. I think it's pretty apparent to everyone sitting here there's a lot of confusion about what's in the ordinance, what's not in the ordinance, what's an interpretation of the ordinance. What exactly is the rush in passing something and then proposing amendments? That seems to be a backwards way of passing the ordinance.
Cannot agree with you more.
wouldn't one think to pass the ordinance that you want to pass with the correct amendments, like to rush something through and then pass amendments to reflect what you wanted to have in originally seems backward to me. And I think it seems backwards to most people here, especially when there seems to be a lot of reception to the amendments that have been proposed. I don't see the advantage of rushing through something and then passing it and then amending it to include comments that most people here seem to be agreeing to.
All right, let's get the show on the road.
Just one other quick question, sorry, for those involved. Mr. Down, if this goes to, if this is challenged in court because of all the ambiguities, chances are the township's going to lose anyway. Am I correct?
That legal advice is what I would give to my client in closed session, but not here in public session.
Do you want to go into closed session?
Will you speak up? I can't hear you.
My name is Ronnie Abraham. I live in Springfield. I'm 32 people. I'm a builder.
What is your address?
32 Pit Road?
32 people.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a builder in this town. I build 3 houses. I'm working now on another 3. I build houses also in Springfield, in Gloucester, Englewood, Randolph, Livingston, and Summit. A good area, not around Elizabeth, around this area. None of this town asked me to put any fence over there. I understand that Elizabeth is not the best town, so it makes sense to put the fence over there. But I'm put fence even on my own self. I want to prefer to put the fence when it's doing the demolition, or if it's doing the excavation, or if I got the hole open, I got the foundation wall, I'm doing it even that nobody told me to do that. I understand that for the safety to leave the fence when doing the job, but I think so when the house is built, and I got all the windows, I got the framing, everything's closed, I did the back, I did the rough grading, there is no any pipe to stick out except the peanut. So it don't make sense to leave the fence over there after the house is closed, and I got the rough grading over there, so it's making.
Thank you.
You're not supposed to come back, but I'll let you. No, you're not.
on South Derby Road. Now I'm going to speak as an attorney. It would be ridiculous when there's already acknowledgement of this township committee that you want to look toward amendments to this, to pass it in its current form. Number one, whoever is then subject to the version that exists now is going to be totally behind the 8 ball to what will ultimately be what you consider to be the correct version of that ordinance. And that's just unfair to the residents of this town, to the builders of this town, and to anybody else that would be subjected to this. Nobody should be passing anything that already has ambiguities in it. Nobody should be passing anything that's subject to so much interpretation that nobody knows what it really stands for. Clean it up, and then put it forward. And even if that means tabling it, even if that means putting it off, isn't it better to do it right than to do it wrong the first time? Thank
you. All right. Anybody up here have anything to say? Chris?
No, I just believe that, and I concur with what our attorney says. I mean, starting from scratch at this point, I think after a lot of people put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this, I don't think would be the best use of our resources and our efforts. I think our best course of action from here on out is to, if there's any resolutions we can make in the future, to do so at that time.
Maria?
No, I mean, I've spoke on this before. It's out of principle. If an ordinance is not written correctly the first time, and if there's issues with it, that I ran across this in the past in our town, and I've been unpopular on it, and I've been screamed at, yelled at. It's been passed, and you know what happened a few months later? We had to change it and amend it. Yet most of the
issues do you have with it?
Well, first of all, the specific issue I have is the fine, and I know
why is that? It's less than every other town that has these fines.
I believe that's not the case.
That's what the information.
That's it. I know what you're looking at, and that's actually not the ordinance. itself. That's a table.
No, I know, it's a comparison of.
Right, it's a
like,
comparative
a bunch of
analysis.
towns.
In addition to that, I think the premise of this ordinance is safety. And while I agree wholeheartedly that we have to have safety measures in place, and I don't disagree with our mayor on that, it's the premise of the ordinance. If it's ill-written and it doesn't benefit the residents and it's going to carry down residual additional cost to our builders, I don't agree with that, so.
What specific costs would be added that, because nobody's been
Sure,
able to.
so I
get
believe a
that.
resident a few moments ago spoke on this, and I have to agree with you on this, sir.
You didn't give specifics.
Yep, he had spoken about a fence. So here we have contractors in this town building single residence homes. We have contractors using, you know, their abilities to put on an addition on a single family home. Those costs that you incur as a builder, I mean, let's be honest, will be passed down to the home.
What specific, nobody's been able to tell me what specific cost this ordinance would help.
So I'll go one, no, it's okay, I'll go one by one if you like. I'll go one by one, and if I'm, well, I don't know if Eric is asking me.
Well, no,
If
I
you're
just
asking
don't
me
know
or if you're asking
specific-
the residents,
what
I can go
costs?
one by one if you'd like, some things that stick out altogether. The cost is time and labor associated with putting in the particular fence that we're talking about. I understand that there's an issue with safety. I went through this about 6 months ago with the dog ordinance. I understand the premise and the need for it. There were things written within that ordinance that I didn't agree with. It passed, we had to go back, we had to change it. So it's the premise of this ordinance. So I agree with the safety of it. There's a hole, there's something wrong. I understand that, but it's a cost to the builder, and it's a residual cost that's passed down in turn to the homeowner. I understand that, and I'm a capitalist at heart, so I get that, okay? However, if we're gonna compare ourselves to towns, secondly, we compare ourselves to towns that we have things in common with. We're in the same county, we have the same type of homes, we have the same type of structures, we have more residential dwellings as opposed to commercial dwellings. We need to do a correct comparative analysis. So we could sit here and say that we're comparing ourselves to Princeton and other towns, and that's fine and dandy. We're within the same state, but we're not within the same county. I've had that with other various arguments on other issues that we've had in closed session, that we have to make sure we compare ourselves to towns within this area. So all of these things, the fence, I would say the cleanup costs for the dirt, I know there's some issues with that. The fines, I'd like to make sure they're comparative to the towns surrounding us. All of those costs are passed down to the homeowners, actually. So that you asked for specific things.
Thank you.
Wait, Mr. Mayor, can I just ask Mr. Martini a question? Mr. Martini, how long have you been with our town?
25.5 years.
Did you work with the planning board attorney to review this ordinance?
I did.
And along with our township attorney?
Correct.
And are you comfortable with this ordinance?
I am.
What you do every day for
Yes.
how many years? How many years have you been with the town?
25 plus.
25 years. Okay, thank you.
And again, I like Sam and I talk all the time on,
Yeah,
on various
absolutely.
issues. It's not that I'm saying that you don't have any
Oh, I
experience.
understand.
This is going down a funnel now, trying to make an argument that Sam doesn't have any
Wasn't this
experience.
discussed
All right, hold on, wait a minute. Charlie, we're done with this public.
Oh, I didn't hear that you were done with the public
No, we're going done with the public, nobody else is coming up at the time. It's to the committee and we're gonna take a vote.
Oh,
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Mr. Martini, was this also discussed by the planning board as well, or
Correct.
just the attorney?
No, the planning board.
So publicly, right?
Yes.
I did close public.
Okay.
I did close public.
Yeah, so this was also discussed.
If there's
publicly by
anybody who
the
didn't
board.
speak and wants to speak, yes. We know what everybody else's thing is. Erica,
He did not speak.
all right, good. You gotta come up.
Just to the cost.
Can I have your name and-
Larry Klein, 6 Southgate, Springfield. Just to the point on the costs, it's just with regard to ambiguities. Okay. It's $200 a day. I have the.
No,
No.
you're assuming somebody's gonna get fined. There's no cost inherent in this unless somebody doesn't do it.
I'm not
I thought
What
there
I'm
was something
talking
else
about,
that you were referring to that
I'm
we
in
were not aware of.
Okay.
I'm in finance, and whenever there's any ambiguities or any additional risk, that
I don't
comes
think it
with an
seems as
additional,
ambiguous as you
additional
guys are
cost
implying.
that is required to finish a job. That's what I was getting at with the cost,
Thank you.
the extra ambiguities and the extra risks associated with it always comes with more cost.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Sam,
Anyone who hasn't spoken would like to speak. Otherwise,
I have a question based on Mr. Mardini's response to another. Mr. Mardini, is there anything in this ordinance that is outside the realm of possibilities of any other ordinance of this type for a surrounding town in Uniontown? Is there anything out of the ordinary? Does this include anything in addition to what a standard ordinance would include?
It's a tough question to answer just because it is not a popular ordinance as far as so many towns have it. Only a few towns have it. But the need for this ordinance is there. We need a fence ordinance. And the point also I'd like to make is there are many opportunities before a violation is issued for the developer or the contractor to correct the situation. The first one is notification verbally, followed by a written notice. There's no fine there. Then the second one, there will be another notice written within 8 hours to correct the violation. There's no fine, there's no summons there. Only the third time a summons will be issued. So for somebody to, ignore the ordinance 3 times, then they should get a fine.
So how much time would pass between, in let's say days or weeks or however much it is, how much time would pass between someone getting a warning notice to the time somebody would actually be fined for not following it?
As some of the people who I know here spoke, they know we are very flexible. We give people every opportunity to correct a violation before we issue fines. We don't want to waste our times with fines. Fines means we have to go to court, drop what we're doing, and spend hours working on it. So we try to, our goal always is to get enforcement and without having to issue fines. So the answer to your questions, sometimes we wait 10 days because our ordinance allows us to give 10-day violation notice to have it corrected unless it is serious violations where it has to be corrected immediately. And we work with developers and property owners. And usually, we will not rush to give you a summons if we see cooperation from a developer or a contractor. Now, we talked also about commercial sites. If you look at the Chipotle site, it's always fenced in. We talked about the redevelopment project. We will make sure that that project is fenced in. And we had several problems in town where people were working in a site that we felt was unsafe, and they didn't have a fence, and when we requested a fence, one particular developer said, "You can't make me put a fence, you don't have an ordinance." So.
Okay. Thank you.
yes, I did. I closed it before. Anybody who didn't speak, I said, to come up.
Close it.
You have 2 minutes.
Clara Morelli, 1 South Derby. To your comment, Mr. Kaepernick, you're not starting from scratch. You have a great foundation here with regard to the ordinance. You just have to tweak it. And you don't tweak it by putting in the wrong ordinance and then making amendments to it, in my opinion. You tweak it, and so if your timetable is off by a few weeks, so be it, but at least you're doing it right. And with regard to other towns, very quickly, there are no other towns other than that Westfield one, which says $200 fine, in Union County that have this, nor in Essex County, except for the big cities. And the last thing I would say is in all of them, there's no lock on gate. So when you say, oh my God, if somebody violates it 3 times, that's absurd. Well, it's very easy to violate a locked gate 3 times, probably in 3 days or even in the same day. And that's what's wrong with this. That's what makes the idea that, oh, 3 is a lot. 3 is not a lot when you talk about a locked gate. So I would ask one last time that you consider all the comments made and not rushing to pass a particular ordinance tonight. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I make a motion to close.
Motion.
Yeah.
So I think we were all.
May I have your name and address again?
45 Down Lane. And I don't know if we can interpret the ordinance. So the way the ordinance is written right now, someone's building a single-family home, there's a structure up, there's windows, there's a door. Does the ordinance require a fence up until the CO?
Up until it's
No,
closed
it's
in.
closed in.
Closed in, you just said that.
Well, it's
Yeah.
closed in.
No, you put your doors and windows in.
It's closed in.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Do I have a motion to close?
I make a motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we've discussed it.
Yep.
We'll call for a vote.
Until instructions.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Committeeman Capides?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Du Bois?
Yes.
Committeewoman Stampoulis?
Yes.
Committeewoman Vassallo?
No.
Mayor Huber?
Yes.
Ordinance passes.
Ordinance.
Ordinance 2018-13. This ordinance amends Township's revised general ordinances at Chapter 20, updating certain provisions, adding sections regulating sewer connections, and requiring certain inspections to help reduce unwanted inflow into the sanitary sewer system.
I move ordinance 2018-13 as read by Madam Clerk with publication in the local source dated July 26, 2018.
I second.
Public comment on this? Ordinance, revises.
It revises the ordinances, updating certain provisions, adding sections regulating sewer connections, and requiring certain inspections to help reduce unwanted inflow into the sanitary sewer system.
We're getting fined every year because our flow is too much. I mean, you know that, I mean, that's what.
We haven't been formally fined yet.
You want, Sam, can you explain ordinance 2018-13 regarding the sewer system?
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, we are having an issue with our aged sanitary sewer infrastructure. It's over 9 years old. We constantly working on upgrading the system, but we have issues with what's called inflow and infiltration, and that's a direct clear water entering into our sanitary sewer system that gets treated, and we pay for that cost to treat clean water. And clean water comes either from the street, getting into the manholes covers, or it comes from sump pump connections, or comes from other direct connections through French drains or underground systems. So the Rahway Valley Sewage Authority that takes our sewage and bill us every year, they insisted that we need to reduce our inflow and infiltration sources and pass an ordinance that limit those activities that increase the amount of clear water into our system.
We haven't been formally fined though.
No, we have not.
Just
We
to
have not.
clarify, the mayor had said we've been fined.
No, we have not been
There's
fined,
no
but we have been.
fines against this township from the article.
But we get very
We've
close.
been warned. We've been warned.
Yes, we get very close to being fined.
We have not
Yeah.
been fined, just to clarify that. Okay.
Public, okay. You gotta come up.
Charles Larkin, 226 Christie Lane. Does this affect like a regular?
A new house, you mean?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
No, it will affect, when there's a house that is being sold, for example, we have to do an inspection. If somebody has an illegal connection, we ask the homeowner to correct that before the house is turned over, such as some
Right now,
pumping.
when you go to sell a home, all you have is a fire inspection.
Correct.
So this is a new inspection that we're going to.
That's correct.
Is
That's
that part of
correct.
the ordinance, that there's a new inspection?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a separate fee for it?
It probably, there is,
You
but
apply
it's, when you apply for,
Huh? Building department?
yes,
So it's a separate,
it's part of.
right now we do right now there's an application that's done online for the fire department to come out. I believe that's like $100 and whatever dollars, not a big deal.
I don't remember seeing the fee for this.
This is, the permit issuance is $20, is that what you're referring to, B? 20-4.2, permit required B.
You know, we worked on this a long time ago. It is very possible.
I'm sure that everything you
that-
worked on should pass.
No, we
Just for, to make sure no illegal,
That's for connection.
nothing illegal is being.
I think you know that it's what you're gonna have, and again, I don't wanna say, maybe I should stop coming to these things, or maybe I should come more often, but what you're gonna have is a lot of these older homes, some of the people, as you just said, when you say illegal, a lot of these old ladies that are selling their home don't think they're doing anything illegal. And so if somebody's, so when somebody is, and a lot of these sump pumps are tapped into whatever it is.
Right.
So it's not just the $20 for the thing. What's gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, the same thing that's gonna happen with the other ordinance, is it's going to affect the wrong people, and when it affects them, you're gonna go, well, that's not really what we meant. Let's change it. So let's pause this for a second, because what's gonna happen is, when does this inspection happen? How much before the closing?
Charlie, we can't pause it. We are required to pass it. Listen, RVSA requested we do
If
it.
you're selling your house, and it happened to people that I know, and you gotta get your chimney checked. Your chimney, wait a minute, let me finish. Your chimney flue is no, I think it's called a flue, is no good. You gotta get it fixed. They work with you, the building department get you, whatever it costs.
You don't have to get your chimney fixed. You can get a credit and fix it later.
Okay, but let me.
You won't let people sell their house until they get this correct.
Can I just say something? When somebody has an illegal connection into the sanitary sewer system, you are putting in clear water into the system that is being treated by the plant, and guess who is paying for it? All Springfield residents. This needs to be done because it costs taxpayers a lot of money to treat clean water that is going into the sanitary sewer system unnecessarily. And it is in the ordinance already, we're just expanding on the current ordinance.
Yeah, I have no issue with it. I just think, do whatever you want. Just, again, understand what you're doing. So if I want to sell my home in 2 weeks, an older lady, I need to get out, I can't do it because I need this other inspection, correct? If it's illegal, because this 80-year-old woman has been living illegally for the past 80 years, she now has to do what in order so she could sell her home? She has to what?
She has to correct.
Hire a contractor.
Has to hire a plumber to take care of it.
Hire a plumber.
Right.
Now do this, and how long does that take? And how long before you guys will give her an inspection?
Don't do an inspection.
Excuse me, if an inspection is how long in this town for a plumber?
They will work with you. You call me, and I'll get it.
Oh, okay, so I guess this ordinance passes on, anytime there's a problem, we just call the mayor, but come on, let's do it.
If I can help somebody who's selling a house and has this problem, any problem, I work with them.
I'm not selling these homes, I'm not an 80-year-old woman, I'm just, I happen to be here hearing this, and I'm thinking, I buy homes from 80-year-old ladies, and, or men, and I know that sometimes they don't know what the house has or doesn't have, and they want to do what's called an as-is sale. This will stop that, correct?
It will not stop anything. It will.
How much will my fine be if I buy a house as is?
Then you have to fix it. If you're buying a house,
It's on the sale.
anything you buy.
My question is, if I buy a house as is, can I do that?
You need to correct any violation that exists on the house. You gotta. I mean, I don't understand what the problem is.
Estate sales cannot happen anymore in this town until they're fixed? There's no more as-is sales in this town?
No, there is. That doesn't change anything. That has nothing to do with this ordinance, sir.
That means that
If
before.
the house is illegal and I can't get this permit from you, how
Yeah,
does
but Charlie,
that?
what I'm saying is, if you buy as is, then they come in and they say, this is your list of things. That's, wait a minute, let me finish. This is what has to be fixed. They give you, I don't know how many days, 10 days, 30 days, I don't know what it is. You gotta get it fixed within that certain amount, and they come back and check it. If you buy a house as is, that's it.
So the clarification is, just so I understand, the sale can go on, and we can fix it after the sale?
Sure. Well, I would think so. Sam, am I correct?
I told you, this does not affect any sale of the property. This ordinance does not have any effect on the sale of property.
I thought you said before I sell a property, I have to come get a permit.
If you have, you're doing it now. You're doing it now, you have to.
For fire.
Exactly, so what's the difference if you do fire and the correct plumbing issue? I don't get it.
So I have to correct it?
Yes, sir.
He's saying I have to correct it.
Yeah, if you buy as is, if I'm wrong, Sam, tell me. If he buys as is, and then you go in and inspect it and say, it's the wrong connection, whatever it is. You give him a thing of a list of whatever it is, and he has 30 days or whatever you give him to fix it.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Correct.
And he can buy the house the way it is, as is.
Absolutely, that's what I've been saying.
That answers your question. That's it, you've got 10 minutes.
Right. You know that.
You know what, this is.
I think you're arguing over anything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Charlie, this ordinance.
He's saying if I buy it, you're saying I can't buy it.
I didn't say that. I said this will have no effect on the sale of the house. I said that like 5 times.
But you said I have to fix it before I close, correct?
I don't know. I have to check with the building inspector, but it doesn't, whatever the process is today is gonna be the same.
Well, Sam, as is means I'm buying things that have to be fixed. If I buy a house that's broken down, I have to fix these things in order to do anything.
So just so you know, with fire, it doesn't work like that. You don't get to say as is. You must have the smoke, and you must have the fire extinguisher. That in total is a trip to Home Depot and about a half hour. And usually what we do is we say, don't worry about it, we'll put it up. We come in, you put up a couple of smoke alarms and a fire extinguisher, and the party is over. And the fire department can come in and go, yep, I see it, it's fine. What you're talking about here is a little bit different, and it's fine, just make a small adjustment. He's saying, before you close, fix it. So now we're gonna spend money on something that we're gonna tear down. All I'm saying is, I'm not arguing with you, I'm saying, fine, just make a condition that says you can close, but you can have, what, 60 days to fix it? Is that fair?
I said it a million times. It will not affect the sale of the house. Whatever the process is now.
It will not affect this.
I don't know what else
you're arguing about.
I don't know what else.
Charlie, you had your time. Thank you. Motion to close?
Motion to close, Mr. Mayor.
Hold it. One more.
Second that?
Second.
All right, hold it. Clara.
Just on the real estate for clarification purposes, I do a lot of real estate law. Sam, if you could answer this question, please. It is a requirement to have a smoke detector, carbon monoxide cert, and fire extinguisher before you can close. I think what Charlie was asking, I just want to make it clear, is this going to become a requirement of this municipality that this has to happen before the sale of the house can close?
You have to get a certificate of compliance. You have to, at least 10 days prior to the sale, you have to get a certificate of compliance relating to the unlawful connection, potential unlawful connections. So an inspection will take place beforehand. And you don't have to wait till the 10th day before the sale. Hopefully, with good counsel, it'll happen months before the sale. And you'll have to remedy it. And there's no fee involved, not in this ordinance, beyond whatever's already on the books.
Well, realistically speaking, it won't happen months before because usually nobody will know about this till they do a home inspection, number one. Number two.
Well, they don't have to do the home inspection. They just have to notify the town that they're getting ready to close and they'd like an inspection done. They'll apply for a certificate of compliance.
Right, but if it's revealed that there's a problem, what I'm saying is that will in fact delay the closing. This is what we're trying to get at. Will that delay the closing? What the mayor was saying was, no, you can still close as is. That sounds like that is not.
Sure.
Not as it relates to the certificate of
That's what I
compliance.
thought.
That's
You have to have.
I was wrong. I was wrong there.
And I think what Mr. Larkin was trying to say is the burden becomes on, to use his example, the lady that's been living in the house for all the years that has no idea that there's an illegal connection. Usually it will come out through a home inspection if the buyer is going to do a home inspection. But let's say somebody is buying it as is, and then the town goes out and does it, and they find that there's this problem. Until it's corrected, you can't close. So it's not true that you got 60 days or 30 days or whatever post-closing. You have nothing post-closing. It all has to be done right. I just want to clarify.
There will be this will create a serious incentive for homeowners, whether they're getting ready to sell or not, to make sure that they're in compliance with, and these requirements already exist. The certificate of compliance is what's new. So this is aimed at helping to encourage, I think, greater active ferreting out by homeowners, by sellers, by purchasers, and it gives the town an opportunity to do a visual, and it's just a visual inspection prior to a sale in order to see if there are any illegal connections.
Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, have a motion to close?
I'll make a motion to close, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any discussion up here?
Sam, just really quick, is this amendment based on the premise of the RVSA looking to recoup monies that they feel that we've not provided to them by way of overages?
No, they're trying to reduce the amount of clear water that is getting into the system.
Because that affects our flow rates.
Correct. We have a limited volume of flow that we send to the plant every year, every day. And
This is
if
just good for the public to know, because I didn't know that
No,
until I
absolutely.
sat on the board.
we have,
No idea.
we're allowed to send 3.85 million gallons per day. And if we exceed that amount, then the township becomes in violation.
We are, would you say, a repeat offender of our flow rates?
We are, and we are because, again, the system is old. As we find a problem, we fix it, but the system is old and allows this clear water to get into the system, and we are trying to stop it, and we have been going to meetings with RVSA, trying to work things out, how we're gonna reduce this amount of clear water and bring back to our levels to the allowed level, and we are doing very well.
And there's other towns within, I think it's Union and Middlesex County, that are part of this
That's correct.
sewage authority. And there's others that are repeat offenders as
There
well
are-
within our immediate area.
Actually, most townships who are part of the RVSA system already have this ordinance in place.
So this is a somewhat of an amended mandate by
No.
RVSA?
It was required by RVSA a few years ago, and most towns already complied. We have resisted because of the language of the ordinance, and we have kind of watered down the ordinance as much as we can, but we can't do any more, and we have to pass it, or we will be subject to fines.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
It's good for the public to know.
Absolutely.
Who the heck would really know about the RVSA and how much money we've spent already on the RVSA? If only you all knew. You'd be amazed. It's
Roll call,
amazing.
please.
It's like throwing money out the
Just for
window.
the public benefits,
Throw it.
we spent almost $2 million a year to send our flow to RVSA
Yes.
to treat.
And we could have another discussion about their upgrades to the plant, can't we, Sam?
Committeewoman Vassallo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dubois?
Yes.
Committeeman Kapidis?
Yes.
Committeewoman Stampoulis?
Yes.
Mayor Huber?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Ordinance 2018-14. This ordinance amends the ordinance establishing the maximum base salary and compensation for certain officers, positions, and employees within the Township of Springfield.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2018-14 as read by Madam Clerk, with publication in the local source for July 29th, 2018.
I second.
All right. Public comment on this? Just so you know, this, if I'm wrong, this is the raises for the non-union people, am I correct?
Yes, for 2018.
2018. Seeing none, have a motion to close the public portion.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Discussion up here?
No.
All right, well, wait for Maria to come back and we'll call roll.
Bless you.
We're voting on the 2018.
Salary ordinance? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Committeewoman Stampoulis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dubois?
Yes.
Committeeman Kapidis?
Yes.
Committeewoman Vassallo?
No.
Mayor Huber?
Yes. All right.
Ordinance passes.
First readings.
Okay, ordinance 2018-15. This ordinance amends Chapter 6, Alcohol Beverage Control of the General Ordinances of the Township at Section 6-4 by modifying the Sunday hours of sale.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2018-15 as read by Madam Clerk for publication in the local source July 29, 2018, with final hearing on August 14th, 2018.
I second.
This ordinance we're talking about is because of, you want to explain it, Chief? Because of, people have brunches, and we have a law in New Orleans right now, you can't serve alcohol beverages until 12 o'clock
On Sundays.
on Sunday. But we're amending it
2.5 hours earlier.
2.5 hours earlier. So that's what this ordinance is. Any discussion up here?
Nope.
No.
Maria?
No.
Okay. Roll call?
Committeeman Kapidis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dubois?
Yes.
Committeewoman Stampoulis?
Yes.
Committeewoman Vassallo?
Yes.
Mayor Huber?
Yes. All right. Resolutions. 2018-198, 199, 200, 201, 2018-2002, 202, 203, 204, 205, 206, 207, 208, 209, and 210. Have a motion?
I make a motion to approve resolution 2018-198 through 2018-210.
I second.
Second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Committeeman Kapidis?
Yes.
Committeewoman Stampoulis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dubois?
Yes.
Committeewoman Vassallo?
Yes.
Mayor Huber?
Yes. All right, discussion and action.
Okay. I move to discuss recreation request from Congregation Israel for use of Irwin Park for annual picnic on Sunday, August 5th from 3 to 9 p.m., rain date August 12th, hold harmless and certificate of insurance provided.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request from Temple Sharai Shalom for the use of Veterans Park on Friday, September 7th, from the hours of 6 to 7:30 p.m., Shabbat under the stars, and a waiver of fee for the fire safety permit.
I second.
Roll call.
So even though,
Roll call.
even though we're,
Yeah, because it's not.
okay, roll call?
Committeewoman Stampoulis?
Yes.
Committeeman Kapidis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dubois?
Yes.
Committeewoman Vassallo?
Yes.
Mayor Huber?
Yes.
I make a motion to discuss and approve appointment to fill vacant seat on the Board of Health expiring on December 31st, 2019.
I second.
Yes, the next meeting.
And that is,
That was the person that they recommended
Ms.
last
Ham.
night.
It's Ms. Ham?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I move to approve the recreation request from a Springfield resident on Social Security disability benefits to join pool as a resident, senior rate of $90.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Dubois?
Yes.
Committeewoman Vassallo?
Yes.
Committeeman Kapidis?
Yes.
Committeewoman Stampoulis?
Yes.
Mayor Huber?
Yes. Your move.
Oh, I move to discuss the cancellation and change of date of workshop meeting on Monday, August 13th, due to chamber concerts.
For the Chamber
I
Comments.
second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Chamber Comments, because of their concert, we are not gonna have a, workshop that Monday. We want you all to go to concert over in the high school. If you haven't been over to high school, and saw the new, auditorium that we pay for. It looks good, sounds good. I mean, it's a fabulous place now. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Correspondence? Unfinished business? Oh, sorry.
I have one item I need to discuss with the committee. It's okay. We are having an issue with a property maintenance problem with one property in Springfield. And it's been 2 years in the making. And we have sent violation notices and requesting that the violations to be abated, but we haven't gotten any results. And we issued summonses, and the property owner actually now has a warrant for her arrest. So she's an old person, and she can't really make it to court to even make an issue of it. And we have went through this in the past, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, and we have an ordinance in place to allow us to deal with situations like that by hiring an outside contractor to go in a couple times a year, clean up the property, and then we put a lien on the property. And I just want to make sure that the committee knows that we are working with Mr. Dowd on that, and we are going to start this process. We will be issuing a notice, a final notice to the property owner, letting them know that this was discussed, and they have a certain amount of time to comply. And if they work with us, we'll give them more time. But if they don't, then we will have to hire a contractor and have the work done.
Thank you.
Anybody have any comment?
No, thank you.
I just want to add one thing. Last night, before our work session, we had our annual joint Board of Education and Township Committee meeting. I know our Board of Education President Scott Silverstein is here, and I just want to say that I found it personally very productive. We thank them for hosting over there at the brand new library. It looks great. We spoke about 3 initiatives that we spoke with the Board of Ed. We got their support on it, and we appreciate your support, and we look forward to working with you as always. Thanks a lot.
All right, I was saying you have our blessing to direct us for a vote?
No, we're going to public comment.
I know, but on what Sam said, do I have to do it to vote on it? No, we just,
No.
okay.
He's just notifying you.
Public comment on any government thing right now. Any government thing, anything. Seeing none, can I have a motion to close?
I'd like to make a motion to go to close.
Second.
All right. We're going to.
I'm going to read the
Yes.
resolution. Resolution 1718, whereas Article 6 of the Open Public Meetings Act provides that a public body may hold a closed session, and whereas the Township Committee will during this meeting enter into discussion of the following matters: personnel, fire department, litigation, McClear versus Township, contract negotiations, redevelopment, SPD sale. Whereas matters to be discussed in closed session are to remain in the strictest of confidence by all Township Committee members in furtherance of their fiduciary duties to the Township. Now therefore be it resolved, matters discussed at this meeting will be released to the public when reasons for discussing and acting upon them in closed session no longer exist.
Will we be voting on anything now?
No. So no action will be taken.
No action will be taken.
I make a motion to go into executive session.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you.